Hi, everybody. My name is Arya, and welcome to today's presentation. So, today I'm going to be talking about anxiety. So, I chose this topic because anxiety is a topic that has many stereotypes about it, and people often stigmatize it and overlook it. So, today I'm going to break down some of the stereotypes about it and talk about why anxiety affects us and the different types of anxiety. So, anxiety is the feeling of fear or panic. Most people feel anxious, panicky, or fearful about different situations in life. For example, as a sophomore, I had to take exams quite often, and I get very nervous before important exams. And it's not the fact that I'm worried that I won't do good, but it's just the concept or the idea of having to take an exam that scares me. So everyone reacts differently to anxiety. And some people feel worried, stressed, or nervous. Some people have butterflies in their stomach. And other people have other physical symptoms like insomnia, depression, sweating, or chest pains. So I haven't experienced all of these, but everybody is different. And there are probably other things as well. So once the situation is over, though, like in my case, once the exam is over, you feel much better, you feel calmer, you feel better. Sometimes, though, the feelings can continue even after the situation is over, and you may have a stronger sense of fear. When this happens, anxiety can become a problem and can affect your everyday life. So, there are two broad types of anxiety. There's clinical anxiety, which involves anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety disorders or panic disorders. This is probably the type of anxiety that you picture when you think about anxiety, having panic attacks, being really stressed out about things that may not even happen. And then there's developmentally normal anxiety and fear. This is the type of fear that you experience normally, like before an exam, or this is another example for me before I go on a roller. So, clinical anxiety is probably what you think of when you picture anxiety, right? So, excessively worrying about something that may not happen, or overestimating danger. And this includes stuff like fear of spiders or fear of heights. Developmentally normal anxiety or fear is a more valid sense of emotions, like worrying in the presence of something that will happen, and it is has a defined trigger, like exams, spiders, like things that you know what will cause it. And then for clinically defined anxiety, people normally don't know what causes it. Like something that's completely normal can trigger it. So everyone experiences anxiety or has experienced anxiety at some point in their life. For most people, the feelings of anxiety come and go and last a short time, but for others, it is chronic with severe symptoms and can last months and years. So, 1 in 3 people between the ages of 13 and 18 experience anxiety of some level. So, this is kind of a cool model that I found about um, developmentally normal anxiety and then clinical anxiety. So these are kind of things that you would expect the differences, but one that I thought was quite interesting was that normal anxiety can be helpful or motivational. So this is what people call the anxiety productivity curve. It's not some made up thing, there are studies behind it and it is scientifically backed. So this is based out of Yerkes Dodson law, which basically states that performance with physiological or mental arousal increases, but only up to a certain point. Any higher than that, and it starts to decrease. So, in simpler terms, it basically means that till one point, anxiety can help you do better. But after that point, it's what you'd expect. Things get hard. So, in the beginning of the curve, under low pressure and anxiety, there's like boredom, you're bored. And as you get increased on the curve and higher up the curve, you have increasing attention and interest, and you're more engaged and efficient. Then you can see there's an ideal zone, and under the ideal zone, you have an optimal arousal system and optimal performance. So, but if you keep increasing the pressure even after that, your body starts to get impaired and your brain starts to get impaired and you get overloaded. And then eventually, at the very, very end, you can see you burn out. So, what causes anxiety in teens? So, while anxiety is a normal response to some events and situations in life, it's not healthy to feel anxious all of the time. So adults might wonder what can cause teens to be anxious. I mean, it's not like they have a job, it's not like they're paying bills. So what can cause them to be anxious? So regardless of that though, there are still many things that can cause anxiety in teens. The most, the most prevalent would be academic pressure, which is like expectations to get good grades, to do well on your exams. And these are expectations that you might set for yourself or your parents might set for you. Another one is social media. So in social media, people often feel the pressure to show everyone, hey, look at me. I'm doing great in life. Check out these pictures. I'm having so much fun. And another one is parental disapproval. So maybe you didn't do that well on a test. It can definitely cause anxiety telling your parents, I didn't do that well on this test. And then another one is physical changes. So, under physical changes, some people may not be happy with the way that they look or the way that their body is, and that can cause anxiety sometimes. The last two aren't as common, but for sure they do happen. So, traumatic experiences or underlying health issues can also cause anxiety in teens. So, what happens with anxiety in teenagers? So, we don't have fully developed brains yet, and our brains are fully developed when you're in our early 20s. However, teenagers are expected to take on adult responsibilities and start to become independent. Like when we leave for college, I'm pretty sure for most of us, that's going to be the first time that we're away from our parents and technically independent. So, frustration sometimes, caused by a lack of experience and inability when we're living by ourselves, can raise teenage anxiety levels. These raised anxiety levels flood our brains with stress hormones, which makes it harder for us to think clearly. So just going back for a moment, back to this curve. So again, most people might be wondering, why is there a curve? Because lots of people I've spoken to say, I perform the best under no pressure. So now going back, when you are stressed, your brain releases stress hormones, which are called glucocorticoids. And these glucocorticoids bind to centers of your brain to increase learning and memory. So that explains why in the beginning there's a curve upward, because as the glucocorticoids bind, your memory and learning is increasing and your performance is increasing. However, too much exposure to these glucocorticoids can damage those same brain regions responsible for increasing your learning and memory, which results in the downward curve and the eventual burnout. So, how do we recognize anxiety in ourselves and others? Again, this is a sort of different way to think about it because we're not thinking about clinically diagnosed anxiety. We're thinking about developmentally normal anxiety. And a lot of these things are things you may not associate with anxiety, such as needing reassurance. So, needing reassurance is like needing to know that you're doing okay. So, that could be like a type of anxiety where you're worried you're not doing things correctly, you're constantly thinking you're doing things wrong. So you may not associate this with anxiety, but I think it's important to look at all of these different aspects of anxiety and kind of see if like do any of these apply to you. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to get diagnosed or whatever, but it's still important to understand when you're having anxiety. Even if it's just normal everyday anxiety, you still have to know when it's coming, what the triggers are, just so it doesn't become worse. And one of the stereotypes that goes with anxiety when you're recognizing these things is people think that having anxiety makes you weak, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. So don't be afraid to like tell somebody if you are actually struggling with anxiety. Like there's lots of people you can go to. You can go to your family, you can go to your friends. There's also agencies that you can go to and stuff like that. So don't be afraid because you think other people might think you're weak or other people might think like certain aspects of you are different, but they're not. It's fine. It's completely normal. So these are two quotes from people who have had anxiety. So one of them says, living with anxiety is like being followed by a voice. It knows all your insecurities and uses them against you. It gets to the point when it's the loudest voice in the room and the only one you can hear. And then the second one is, I've got 99 problems and 86 of them are completely made up scenarios in my head that I'm stressing about for absolutely no logical reason. I think these are two really good ways of thinking about anxiety. And it's good that you're aware, that people are aware of it, what anxiety is and know how to recognize it. So, what can be helpful in anxiety? So, obviously, you have to calm yourself down. That's kind of a given. And sometimes it can help to distract yourself from the task at hand. Like before I was going to give this presentation today, I was a little nervous. I was a little anxious. I don't like talking in front of other people too much. But, I went outside, I cleaned up a little, like I tried to distract myself from like thinking about all the things that could go wrong while I'm giving this presentation. Anyway, other things you can do are exercise, eat healthy, stay organized, writing things down. Staying organized and writing things down, I feel like, in my opinion, are very helpful because understanding and knowing the things around you, I feel it can decrease anxiety in some cases. You can also get to know yourself, get support again, and talk to somebody, be social, and seek expert advice if you need. So, this is another quote that says, I will breathe, I will think of solutions, I will not let my worry control me, I will not let my stress level break me, I will simply breathe, and it will be okay because I don't quit. So, what is the impact about anxiety? So, whatever the cause is, the rise of anxiety is a real problem in today's generation. It might just be because of increased awareness, so more people are diagnosing and understanding what it is, but we don't really know if that's actually the reason why. So, with mild or moderate symptoms, it can affect daily activities on emotional and physical levels. And then, more chronic anxiety can lead to serious mental health problems, depression, and sometimes, not every time, but very rarely, it can be life threatening. But anxiety isn't all bad. Scientists have learned that some degree of stress and anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing. So, good stress or eustress keeps us motivated and excited about life. So, again, going back to the curve, a certain degree of anxiety is good for you and is helpful. There's also anxiety as a warning sign. Anxiety might be the warning sign that you need to bring awareness to your current situation and make changes in your life. Like if you're feeling super anxious or you're always anxious, then there's probably something that's going on and it can bring awareness and it can help you solve it. Anxiety as a motivation. Rather than being considered a hindrance, anxiety may help you feel motivated when faced with challenges. Research has shown that students who have or face certain anxiety or a certain level of anxiety actually displayed improved performance on tests and while participating in competitive sports. A good real life example of this is Serena Williams. Serena Williams is like one of the greatest of all time tennis players. And in an interview, she said that it's not the joy of winning that keeps her going, but the fear of losing. And there's actually several coaches that say the people who play with the fear of losing tend to play better in professional level sports. So that's just a thought. And then another one is social relationship positivity. So for people who have dealt with anxiety, they become more empathetic and understanding of issues that others have faced, because you've done it, you understand what they're going through, and you understand what they need. So you are more accepting of your friends and family when they're dealing with their own personal changes. Another quote is, "You can't always control what goes on outside, but you can always control what goes on inside." So whether it be by yourself or with support, you can always control what's going on the inside. So I wanted to also say that we are here for you. We have mentors who give honestly great advice. And they can, if you ever need to talk with anybody, you can talk with us, you can talk with a mentor. And then there's also an association um, that you can also contact on our website if you need anything. So thank you for coming. And we have an upcoming event in April about body positivity, and our website will be updated with information for it. So now I wanted to
need to reconsider what is has to happen in the next coming days, and then we can really actually work on it, on how we need to plan our strategies with dealing with anxiety. Yes, anxiety does offer a positive stand, but when it starts to turn negative, I think that's the time when we need to control everything and sort of bring everything together, and then make things work according to that.
There, I really liked what you said, but I have a doubt in that how do we know that anxiety is going against us? Like we're so busy with our work and in our social life nowadays that we don't even get to the time to analyze what's happening around us. So how do you realize that yes, anxiety now is not good for me?
Well, I cannot speak for all of us. On an individual stand, what I have experienced is that at some point, anxiety actually makes me feel a bit under pressure, which increases my productivity. But uh, last month, or I guess, yeah, last month, what happened with me was that practicals in the schools are going on, right? And then everything was going fine, but just suddenly one day it all feels like I am feeling empty from inside. And when you feel now that okay, now you need to stop, because my productivity was reducing, I was feeling like empty all the time. And it is not just that. And just a minute. Yeah. So when you feel that your productivity is decreasing in a way, and when you feel you're not giving it your 100%, I guess, Sarah, that time you feel that, okay, now everything is going against me. I need to change the strategy. I need to plan ahead. Maybe that.
I also think that when you know that when you can think that anxiety is going against you, like sometimes when anxiety is going against you, like Arya said, you overthink things. Um, so if you are overthinking things so much that you're not like able to focus on other things or try to make yourself happy, I think that's when you know that anxiety is going against you too.
Yes, exactly. When you feel that all the forces around you from outside and from inside, they're all going against you, then I think you know that anxiety and under pressure is not working anymore.
Thanks for the talk, but I have one more question. That is, if I know like I'm going through anxiety, what are the ways I can get out of it? Because see, some people they're not so strong or so emotionally strong to get out of things like this, and talking still it doesn't help. So what are like some basics are like we can talk to our parents, we can talk to our friend, but sometimes you get to into a very deep level of anxiety. What is the way of getting out of them? Any
Arya,
suggestions? It's not like I'm asking some one person. Anyone can answer my question.
I think Arya said that you should try to be happy, like do things that make you happy, like go outdoors or like draw or listen to music or things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I wanted to add was that I think if you're gotten to the point where anxiety has become like a problem, the first thing you should do is identify what's causing the anxiety. Because I think if you don't even know what's causing your anxiety, then it's really hard to kind of take the next steps and actually help yourself. So I think the first step would definitely be identifying what it is that's causing you the anxiety.
And for me, I think it would be like to organize things first, to plan what I need to do again, and start by small, because that will add up, that will slowly add up and make a big difference, of course. What I do is to just calm myself down, relax, and maybe maybe read a book, or maybe do something that I like, which is not very hefty, which is not very not a mayhem to do. So maybe by doing small things that make you feel better can help you with the anxiety.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I actually do all of the things that he just mentioned. But yeah, for me, I also like to draw while listening to music. So that's just something I enjoy. So it calms me down. And sometimes, like, I'm pretty sure for a lot of people, academics and school stuff can cause a lot of stress. So sometimes just taking a break really helps. You become more productive even after the break because your mind is clear and you just function a lot better. Like it doesn't have to be a full day, like an hour off or whatever, just to do what you really want to. Just don't think about it.
I also feel that if we want to just eliminate this anxiety, we can do this thing that we don't attach ourselves to our goals. Because when we do attach ourselves to our goals, then we totally depend upon the goals, or our feelings totally depend upon them. Like if we do fails in something, then we start feeling sad, and that causes anxiety basically. And if we'll not feel like attaching ourselves to our goals, and we don't feel whether we fail or whether we succeed, if we have the same attitude towards both of them, then this anxiety will not even you know it will not get created itself in our minds. That can also help. And because we say when we achieve something, the hard work we have done, that matters the most. That's what I feel. And if even after we succeed, we just it's just a happiness for some point of some few moments, and then it's like now we have to achieve something else. So it's the hard work that matters, the changes we have made in ourselves, that matters the most.
I totally agree with that, because whenever there is a goal to achieve, we don't really go through the process, what we have to go through the process in our mind. We just keep thinking about what will the result be, what will the result be, and we just burden ourselves with the future without realizing that we have to plan for the present. Maybe that also, maybe we lag there, and maybe that causing anxiety to us, because when we come face to face with the situation, we don't actually have a plan, because all the time we have always thought about what the result will be, what the result will be.
I think they're both really good points. I think a balance would be important, like knowing which goals matter and which goals to get attached to.
And what degree of hard work are we ready to put in to get the results that we require?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like you can't expect results if you're not going to put any work into it.
Well, I agree with that. And I also once read a quote, and I like to mention that it's not the future that you're afraid of, it's repeating the past that makes you anxious. Like it's true, because sometimes we fail and we're afraid of even trying in the future, which makes us anxious, because then we are afraid of failing again and again. But that's not true. That if means putting hard work into your work, you'll definitely succeed in one way or the other. It might not be the same goal which you means in the in the starting in which you're thinking, it might not be the same thing, but something you definitely succeed in.
Exactly. We know now that always the hard work never goes in vain. Maybe it will not pay you off right now. Maybe you'll achieve something in the future. That's your hard work that you have been doing from the past time.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think a reason we're afraid of repeating the things in the past is because we know that they can happen again. Like if you're afraid of a certain type of failure in the past, it's because you know that it's something that can happen. But it's important to realize that you've learned from that past experience. So when you're going into it this time, you're going into it with new information.
That hard work also brings some change in ourselves. We can just observe that change, that we become a better person from the one we were before, better version of ourselves when we do hard work. And
Who talked about that too. And I think it's very important that if you win, you should have a good mentality about it. And you should be like, you shouldn't, you shouldn't spend your whole entire time talking, thinking about it. So, yeah.
Hey, so do you guys think that fear and anxiety are the same thing?
Kind
yes,
of,
yes,
you can not not exactly the same, but yeah, you can say that fear is something which you have, means you are afraid to do something. But anxious anxiety is when you're actually nervous, not afraid. You're nervous to do something. You can do it, but it's in your mind that I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. But fear is not the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, to add on to that, from a scientific standpoint, um, you guys know what phobias are, right? Like fear of heights, fear of spiders and stuff. Those are classified under anxiety disorders. So I think fear is a subset of anxiety.
Yeah, I agree with Arya. I think anxiety is based on fear because anxiety is basically you're afraid of doing something or you're afraid of like trying something. So I think they're basically the same thing.
Another thing to add, I think they both are based on being afraid of something, but I think anxiety is more of being afraid about what could happen. Like you don't know what it is that's going to happen, and that's what you're scared of. But then fear is more of like, you know what you're scared of.
Exactly. Fear is of being afraid of something. The result, we know what might happen. Means like you're sure if I fall into the river, I might drown. The people who have fear of means water, they're like, if I fall into the water, I might drown. But anxiety, it's not the same. You don't know. You're afraid of trying something new. That is what I think anxiety is. If it's afraid, being afraid of the result, what might be, it might be good, it might be bad. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's not definite. You're afraid of the indefinite thing.
Mm-hmm. To add on to like the example that Sarah just said, like someone could have a fear of drowning. So like it's because you know that when you drown, if you don't know how to swim, you could die. Like you know that that's a fact. But like anxiety could be like, oh, I'm standing next to a pool. Like I could fall in now, but I could not at the same time. Like you don't know.
Exactly, because it is always uncertain of what the result will be. That makes us anxious in a way. And fear is something that we know that, okay, spiders are there and I have phobias from them. Maybe that is what fear stands for. And anxiety is more of something which is uncertain, that you have put in your whole effort, you don't know what will happen. That in a sense makes you more anxious about the things.
On anxiety, I would like to add one thing. I just heard a American folk tale a few days back, and it said that once there was a person who was trying to um, become a head or something, and it was going on like his interview was going on, and the last person who was to interview him was a medicine man, which when the person gave the interview, the medicine man asked that there are two people inside you. There is a dog and there is a wolf. The dog is benevolent and a very kind person, a loyal person. And on the other hand, the wolf is malevolent and totally opposite to dog. So, who will win if the fight goes inside you? So, the person was completely confused, and then the medicine man replied, whichever one you feed will win and the other one will lose. So I think this can be applied to anxiety also. If we feed the good in ourselves, then we'll be able to win, or the good will be able to win, and we'll be able to be happy, and whatever we want we can achieve that. And if we feed the bad in, that definitely that will have the totally opposite outcome.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like people say, um, this is sort of related, but they say like you're influenced by the people that you're around. So kind of like that. Like if you're more confident in your abilities, um, I guess that will influence, and the better side, the dog, was it? The dog will overpower the wolf.
So there's this quote, our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. And I completely agree with it, because anxiety is basically you're scared of what can happen in the future. And so you're trying to control what can happen in the future. But I think that instead of like wanting to control the future, you should just let it play out how it does.
Yeah, I agree. So there was some really good discussion here. So I just closed the breakout rooms, and I was wondering, Sarah and Daria, you guys had really good like conversation. If you guys would be okay with sharing some of their stuff in the main breakout room for the other group to hear as well.
Sure, no problem. I'll just give me 2 minutes. Actually, a bit network problem. I'll join back. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So does anyone want to share what they talked about in their breakout room? Yes, Ayush.
We talked about like how to overcome like a lot of work in school.
Yeah, I was in the same breakout room as him, and we tried to name a lot of things that we had a lot of anxiety for. We were feeling really stressed, and then like simple things that could easily overcome it. So there's a lot of things that can really battle all the stress that you have and everything.
Yeah. So I remember this question popped up in the other breakout room I was in as well about anxiety versus fear. And the second breakout room I went to had a really good discussion about it. So we were talking about how anxiety is more of being afraid of the unknown, like what could happen, and then fear is being afraid of like something. Like there was an example um where fear could be like, I'm afraid of drowning, and you're afraid of drowning because you know that if you don't know how to swim, you know you're going to die if you drown. But anxiety could be something like, I'm standing in a pool, I don't know if I will fall. Like I could fall, I could not fall, and I don't really know. Yes, Ayush?
So Punamati had a question. So like how do you help yourself when right before a test? So I said I fidget with my hands.
I think if you're trying to help yourself before a test, you should try to do something that will like make you calm, or you should do extra studying.
Yeah, like my math teacher, before we take a test, she gives us like a bunch of jokes, I guess. Like she shares a bunch of jokes with us just to take our minds off of it. So someone in the chat said, "What is my view on the statement that anxiety is learned from experience and fear is learned from observation?" I think that's actually a very good, I kind of agree with it. That's a really good point, actually. Um, yeah, I think that matches up pretty well. Does anyone else have a different opinion on that? In one of our breakout rooms, actually, I think it was Sarah or somebody who said there was a quote about we're not actually afraid of what the future is, but we're afraid of repeating our past mistakes. So that kind of relates to how anxiety is learned from experience, how we're afraid of making the same mistakes again and not rather what the future holds.
I think anxiety is also from wanting to try to control the future.
Yeah, for sure. Because relating back, it's like something you don't really know what could happen.
And even now, we were in the breakout rooms, the number of children were limited, so we had a better conversation there, because now the level has almost increased just rapidly, because we don't know what will be the response of other members, we don't know what will they say, what they think about our opinions. So according to that, that's the point, because it's always uncertain of what will happen. We all have our own opinions, we all have our own views, but we are anxious about what others will think of our opinions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was in my presentation. I had actually found this model that was how to recognize anxiety in yourself. And one of them was needing reassurance. And I hadn't previously thought about that as something being associated with anxiety. But now that you bring that up, for sure, like we need the reassurance from other people that what we're going to say is like is appropriate when we're waiting for someone else's response, like in a bigger group.
We always wait for what will be the review of our opinion, what will they think of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's kind of like stage fright, that the fear of whether people will agree with what you're saying or not. And honestly, I had that, and I got out of it really hard because I started speaking with people, and once you get out of it, it feels very nice. Talking to people, sharing your opinion, knowing about what they're thinking. It's kind of really nice. You don't need to be anxious about what people will think. People do judge. That's what people are there for. Sometimes they might say something which you might not like. Sometimes they might say that you really means take it positively, and you might change your attitude. And the thing which maybe you're doing something wrong, you'll know that, and then you'll change it. It can be for your betterment sometime. It's how you take it, means how you take the opinions about the people. But you must speak. You should not be just you know don't speak, and then I think you should interact. Everyone should interact. That's what I basically think.
Yeah, like for me, um, I'm not a big fan of public speaking actually. So like I think slowly, like through events like this, like I participate in events like this now and I help organize events like this. So I think that's really helped open me up a little. Like I'm able to have a conversation with you guys even though I've never met you guys before. But I think um like it's hard, but I think practice is definitely something once, like Sarah said, once you're out of it, it feels really good.
So, like Arjun said, that he's scared of his grades when he turns in something.
Yeah, I think
And yes, about the previous point, because at the end of the day, you have to be at peace with yourself. You have to feel comfortable in what you are. And that's how you gain control over your senses, you gain control over your conscience. And maybe that helps to fight anxiety to a little level, because many people have stage fears, and slowly and gradually they develop confidence by doing these things, organizing events, going on up on the stage, presenting your opinions, not worrying what others will think of them. Maybe that helps to develop confidence and reduce anxiety at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Because, like, for public speaking, from my own experience, it's the fear of, like, will other people like what I'm saying? Do other people understand what I'm saying? So I think definitely gaining confidence that, yeah, I'm saying something that's important. Yeah, I'm saying something that's interesting. Gaining confidence in your own skills will definitely help reduce anxiety.
Yeah, for me in second and third grade, we had to do presentations, and I was really scared because everybody else's was better than me. So I didn't know if they liked it or not.
Yes, Nilovna, do you have something to add?
And I think anxiety is more related to what others will think, and we just try to think of some different scenarios, like what others will think, what others will say about ourselves. Either it is related to our appearance or to our class performances. So I think the basic thing we can do is, if we have changed our mindset towards this thing, like fearing from these things, we can also change our mindset to a positive one, like positive approach to everything, that whatever is happening, it's good, it is happening good, it's just like what I want, and things like that. We can make affirmations that can help us to eliminate it.
Well, I'd like to clear Ayush's question that he asked about the fear of getting back at grades, like Arjun has it. I can totally relate it with you because when you're sitting in the room, your teacher is passing out your grades, your heartbeats, like you can feel it actually, and you think that even the person sitting next to me might be able to hear it. It's so fast, and you're like, oh my god, what will I get? What will I get? So see, sometimes you might not get what you're expecting. You might get something you're hoping for a very good mark, but you might not get it. Don't feel bad about it. Try to improve. Take your sheet and analyze what you did wrong, maybe, and you'll be able to get better marks. That actually happened with me last year, and I had to do a lot of hard work in a very short amount of time. So that was because I wasn't analyzing my marks from the starting, right? So if you start from the beginning of a session or a semester, you'll be able to improve by the end, and the final result will be good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because whenever, like, especially the time between when you actually like submit or turn in your assignment, and the time where you get the grade, like you're just waiting for a response. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Especially then is when I'm most like really, really scared and really, 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 really stressed out. But then the moment I actually get the paper, I feel such a sense of relief. But the moment I look at the grade, I really just sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. And like you said, you gotta learn.
Yeah, for me online, when I turn in my assignments, I don't even look at my grades after. So I just forget about it.
I think it's also important to know that it's not the end of the world. There's always a chance to redeem yourself.
And I've also experienced such things, like people, they only concentrate like in our class, that they think that marks only matters the most, and eventually that leads to not a positive competition, but some sort of jealousy, and that which results in anxiety and all. So I think if we believe that it's not the marks that we have scored, but the hard work that we have done to achieve whatever we want, or whatever we achieved, we have the hard work that had brought the changes in us, then that will be a positive approach.
Yeah. So we're kind of hitting the end of the time. So everyone had really good discussion and really good points were made as well. There were a lot of things for me as well that I didn't think about before that are very interesting points for sure. And so I want to thank you all for coming, and remind you guys about the event in next month. That's next month in April about body positivity. And you guys can leave if you want to. If you want to talk some more, you can.
Okay, so thank you so much for today's session, Arya. It was very enlightening, and meet you soon then. See you soon, actually.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Arya, for the amazing session. Learned a lot. Bye.